Welcome to episode 16 of the Aluminium Podcast, Apple News with a British accent. Every week I'm joined by a different guest from the world of tech, bringing you the latest Apple and wider technology news, as well as an insight into our guests and their stories. And for our 16th episode, I'm delighted to welcome from Alex Gear and Tech, it's the newly minted silver play button holder, Alex. How you doing, mate?
Hey, David. Pleasure to be here, man. Thank you. Thank you. I like when you said, with a British accent, so I'll apologize ahead of time because, you hear a dodgy accent.
I'm the only one that has to be British. That's fine. We've had plenty of non-British guests on so far.
Good.
But yes, congratulations on your 100,000.
Thank you so much.
Because we started about the same time, so now I feel really inadequate.
It's been a journey, right? I mean, it's some people just blow up quite quickly. Some people takes time. And I felt like it's been a journey.
It must feel like it's taken forever and no time at all at the same time, that kind of thing.
It's weird. It's one of those, after you achieve it as well, it's like, now what?
Yeah, exactly. But you've got a second channel that's not far off it, which we will come on to in a little bit. But as you well know from this podcast, because we're bringing in different people, you may actually have some different answers to some of the questions that we always ask as well. So this is going to be super exciting today. The first question to get to know Alex is Xbox or PlayStation?
PlayStation, 100%. I think it's almost in the shot. I'm testing a projector and the PS5 is here somewhere. I have used the Xbox before, mainly because my missus wanted I think at the time it was a yoga game.
Okay.
After that we never went back to it.
So was the yoga thing like back in the Kinect days or something like that, where it was just
it was one of those things that had had a camera on top of the telly. I forgot what that was called, but it was really cool. I mean, I liked it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that stuff. That's what I would like Apple to do with Apple TV. I think that makes all the sense in the world now. Yeah,
like a Nintendo Wii replacement. That's how we felt like. Yeah, it was fun.
And obviously with no controllers, because Apple doesn't like controllers, as we've learned with Vision Pro.
Exactly, they've got enough sensor tech, right, to not
absolutely
need it.
Next up, Windows or Mac?
Oh, that's a tough one, man.
It really is, isn't it?
That's a tough one because I'm 50-50. I'll go with Mac. Mainly because the stuff I do on the Mac takes a lot more effort. I do use Windows perhaps in equal time, but what I'm doing there is just admin stuff. It's not really.
Gotcha.
Don't even do gaming.
Yes, gaming, that's the big thing, isn't it? That was where I thought you might take this, because obviously you've done some cool gaming setup, videos and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I got 5 minutes.
Android or iOS?
Oh my God, another tough one. Right now, Android, 100%.
What's your daily driver right now?
It's the S24 Ultra. It's right here. It's been not as good as the S23 Ultra. For me, the S23 Ultra is probably peak Samsung.
Okay.
But between that and the iPhone, trust the iPhone, which is going to my wife soon, at the moment, for what I do, the S24 Ultra ticks more boxes.
I've seen some very nice photography coming out of it from yourself and some others, I think. So, I can see where there's an appeal.
When he nails it, it's pretty good. But when he screws up, it's frustrating because, the iPhone never really screws up that badly. I mean, you can get some bad shots, right? It's with anything. But I don't like when it's inconsistent, especially when you start getting low light. The S24 Ultra at the moment, and if you try to, in low light, you want to get as many pixels as you want, and you try to do, I've got 50 megapixels here, or even 200 megapixels. But it's just at the moment, I don't know what Samsung are doing with their updates, but it's just not playing ball.
Interesting. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. I'll grew up on that stuff. Being from
At least
Brazil.
we're back to safe ground now. That's good.
Yes, and I've got a full. We can talk about the current workload because without coffee, I don't think I would be able to function.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going Monster today.
You're going proper caffeine. Taurine and whatever.
Yeah, well, I was at a trade show yesterday, and they were just throwing it at people. So I was like, yep.
I do like that stuff. It's one of those. I have a treat maybe once every 2-3 weeks because I know if I just get so twitchy, with that stuff. Some days is much needed.
Absolutely. And then last of all, YouTube or podcast?
YouTube. Well, the thing is, you can podcast on YouTube now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, definitely YouTube from a content creation perspective.
Yeah, you're very much into quite beautiful shots and the cinematography side of things, aren't you? Within the content that you make. So
I try.
Whereas I tend to be a talking head, which could. I mean, people don't really need to look at me.
There's more substance. For I have to pretty my content up so that people don't pay attention to what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
if I was articulate and knew what I was talking about, then the B-roll was not required.
But you make it look so good that even if I don't believe for a moment that you don't know what you're talking about, but no, your content in general has always been solid all the way through, which is great.
Appreciate it, man.
And then generally, what is the rest of your kind of current setup? So your daily driver computer, we've already talked phone and that kind of thing. What's the tech stack that you're on right now?
At the moment is one of those periods in the year, right now and then later Techtember when new iPhones come out. It's really confusing because you know as a reviewer, you're trying out different things. But just before the iPads came out, I was pretty settled on my S24 Ultra being my main daily driver. 80% of the time I'm on this thing. And then the Fold 5 as my backup phone. So the SIM card was in there. And the iPhone is there at the moment because I want to do one last 6-month review or whatever and then pass it on. But that was my main smartphone setup. And then I was also settling it with the Tab S9 Ultra. In what I do outside of YouTube, I was using the Tab S8 Ultra a lot more last year. And then, I changed clients quite quick, quite often. So the previous one a few months ago didn't require me to do a lot of work on the tablet, but the one now does. So I'm back on the Tab S9 Ultra in a separate Windows setup over there. So it works well with Windows, not as well as he advertises. I got to be honest. This, we were talking about earlier, right before we started, about the transition between iPhone and Macs and things like that. It's just it could be better between Windows and Tab, specifically tablet Android, or One UI 6.1. But yeah, it's the best setup for what I do right now. But yeah, right now, like I said, yesterday I was panicking a little bit because I've got the new iPads. I've actually just got 2 S24 flavors.
Okay.
So I've got the Ultra myself, but I've got the S24 regular and the Plus to review. So things are getting a little bit overwhelming, to be honest.
There's a lot of things.
So it's hard to say what my setup is. Because,
yeah, that's the thing. Anyone that's kind of working in kind of reviewing tech and stuff, you've always got multiple things on the go. Like I've got a pair of Apple Watches on the go. I've got 2 different M series Macs that are regular.
I forgot about that.
My old Intel iMac is now back up and running Windows and some older versions of Mac OS and stuff just to kind of play around with. So yeah, it's always a little bit exciting. But you just mentioned that you've got the new iPad Pro, I'm assuming. I think that was the one that you were going for, right?
Yeah.
The 13-inch?
And the Air.
Oh, you got both? Cool.
I did get both. I don't know why. I thought... because I have a feeling that the Air would be a good buy. We could talk about it in a minute, but...
Yes.
Yeah, I have a feeling that could be the dark horse. I think that's one of my videos, kind of preview videos I did.
Yes.
Talking about, how much you get for that price. And, sometimes you got to be a little bit, pragmatic. I do have a view on 60 hertz, and I think it's a tragedy. But when you talk to people, I had my... I have someone who helps me 3 days a week here. She was here earlier. And I generally said, what do you think of this? Without telling her, what the difference was between the 2 devices. She had no idea that one was 120 and the other one was 60.
That's the thing. I'm the same. I'm the same. And people take the piss out of me all the time for it because I'm a techie guy. I cannot tell the difference between my iPhone 14
I can tell.
Pro.
Yeah, I can definitely tell.
Yeah, because I use a 12 all day as well as my work phone. And I literally cannot tell the difference. So I'm definitely the Air target
even in
market.
what, I was again keeping an open mind yesterday as I was unboxing this stuff, and I unboxed the Pro first, did a quick setup, and then did the same with the Air. And on the first menu that you have to scroll down to find, I think it's to find a Wi-Fi. I was like, okay, yeah, I can see it straight away. The first thing that you scroll on anything, for me, is noticeable. So for me, whenever I hear people say, I don't notice, it's like, look harder. But
I really do. I've
maybe
tried.
It's just you have a different frame rate on your eye.
My eyes are slower. I think it's probably because I'm really old. And that's the only thing I can assume.
It might be faster. So you adjust better to 60 hertz.
Maybe. I don't quite know what it is, but I said before the 13, I think was the first one that had ProMotion. I was like, I don't know if this is going to make much of a difference. And then I went and looked, and I was like, I can't see the difference, so I'm fine. So I stayed with the 12. And I just can't see it. But let us know down in the comments. Are you someone that can see the difference or can't see the difference? Because I think it's around about 50-50. And I think some people that say they can see it, if it was a blind test, would actually get it wrong.
Interesting. That would be a good thing to do.
I think
just gave me an
interesting.
idea. Yeah. I probably would struggle between 60 and 90 or 90 and 120.
Yeah.
But between 60 and 120, I see it, like I said, on this choose your Wi-Fi selection. I was like, oh, yeah, there it is.
I mean, I even run my main display in here at 30, and it's fine. It's absolutely fine for all I need.
Yeah. And I think some phones will say it's 120. I mean, I've seen some weird stuff with, because you see a lot, because I use, a lot of my B-roll is shot in 120 frames, which is why sometimes I screw up my main camera here. But when I slow footage down, I can see some displays, even though when they're saying it's 120, they're not really.
It's not matching up quite.
Yeah, in Android, you can go in and see what it's actually doing. You can turn that option on to show. Yeah. But yeah, it's each device is so different.
There's a lot of
tackle that.
Yeah, very strange stuff. But yeah, so you've got the new Pro iPad. What do you think of the thinness? Is this revolutionary for you? Oh, and the new pen as well, the new pencil.
Yeah, the thinness didn't do too much to me. As soon as you open though, you kind of, oh wow. Yeah. that was actually my reaction. Wow. It's definitely different. It's definitely lighter, definitely better for people who are commuting. Yesterday was a perfect example because I decided to do the unboxing somewhere. I was in Bath, in Apple Store there. I decided to go to the store. Usually, I used to think, I just want to get it as quickly as possible and I'll just order online. But I found that actually booking a visit to the store at 9 a.m. is the best.
You get it quicker.
Surefire way of getting it. But that gives me a couple of hours then to actually do something with it, whether it's the iPhone or the iPad. So I just sat in a cafe, recorded some bits in there. And I think it's nice because a lot of people are talking about the brightness, the reflectiveness. So I thought it was good to do some stuff outside with the iPad. And but the thinness, you do notice it straight away. But it was more apparent because I was carrying a bag with lots of stuff. So it was like, oh, it didn't add any bulk or weight to what I already had in the bag. So that I saw that, okay, this could be a massive selling point, right? But if you were just comparing the previous iPad with this one, so much of a muchness for me because it's lighter and thinner, but
does it change the way you use it? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of takes on this, and I think my first take when they announced it being that much thinner was, who's asked for this? Which I know a lot of people have said. Yes. And then I've also been listening to people like the guys from 9 to 5 Mac, and they were like, yeah, I know we haven't asked for it, but it's also quite a magical thing when you pick it up for the first time. You're like, oh my goodness, this is like really different.
It's
very super cool.
Yeah, I think I said this about other things like Dynamic Island. It's a very Apple thing to do. Kind of a slight touch of cynicism there that maybe Apple is doing this because there's nothing else to talk about, right? Because where else are you going to focus? So the design is an area that they say, right, let's do something with the design that will be the talking point and making it thinner. Obviously, the ad kind of went a bit sideways with artists, but that idea of getting everything into such a thin device, I thought it was a great idea, a great ad as well.
I agree. I can see everyone's point. Like I can see the other side of the argument about the way that it was presented and
crushing your
how
dreams, right?
Could be taken. Yes, absolutely. But when you think about it as a concept of how much creativity can we squeeze into this small device? That's a really good thing too.
That was
That's
the
a
idea.
very cool.
And it's been done before. I saw.
Yeah,
Is it LG, or
LG.
someone? Yeah,
I think it was.
so they're another first. But I think there is one thing though I want to show. I don't know if you've seen this. I haven't had a chance to do anything.
Please.
Not shorts or whatever. But when I used to close the iPad. Sometimes you kind of rush, right, with the iPad, especially. Usually you're on the go, whether it's between the kitchen and and the living room.
Yeah.
But sometimes I want to close the iPad one-handed. I don't know if anyone has ever tried this, but it used to be quite easy on the previous Magic Keyboard.
Yeah.
With this,
but
last
not with
night,
this one.
I don't know if you've seen it, but you can half close it. It's a lot harder as well, and slam it, and it would start touching the.
It'll
thing.
just stop there.
It doesn't look like it's going to break, but it's a horrible noise when it did. I was like, oh,
Yeah,
day
yeah.
one, and I've already smashed it. But
I
yeah,
don't- that would be the feeling in my head using any foldable phone, and I know you've used quite a lot of them, so we'll come on to foldables, I think, in a little bit as well. But yeah, in general, decent first impression for you then with the new iPad.
Oh, yeah, especially the Magic Keyboard itself. I think I was looking forward to more on the Magic Keyboard, but as soon as you start typing on it, I was like, oh, okay. I can see why it's
so nice to type
350.
on.
It feels expensive in a good way.
Yeah, but I mean, 350 quid is very expensive for a keyboard.
It's nuts.
Like,
it's nuts.
I've never been able to justify going for the Magic Keyboard. I've got an iPad Air 4th gen, so it was the A14 one. Like, that's the latest iPad that I have, and I think my next purchase will be a mini, because I just prefer that kind of form factor, I think. And obviously that doesn't have a Magic Keyboard. But I couldn't justify spending like 200 on a keyboard for it, I don't think, for something that I'm going to carry around.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I think I did that with the Samsung keyboard last year. I was like, I'm not paying, it was the same price. But my brain went, well, you're not buying the nano reflective, what it's called, nano texture glass.
Yeah.
So you're saving yourself 700 quid.
Oh, good
So
work.
okay,
You're rich now.
I'm net 350 in my brain. That's how it works. But yeah, it's not really how it works. I'll tell you one thing I was surprised though. And I did not, maybe it's just me being so burnt by Apple before, but I did not expect the old Magic Keyboard to work with the new iPad Air.
Okay.
Because it's the same size as the M1 iPad Pro. And I thought, I still have that keyboard. So I tried the M1 iPad Pro Magic Keyboard, and it worked. And I don't know why I was expecting it not to, but
I
was pleasantly surprised.
From memory, I think it's something about, is it the thickness of the new iPad Pro that basically means that it won't work? I don't know, they've re-engineered like the magnets inside and all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, I was kind of wondering maybe they were going to do like a magnetic pass-through for power with that keyboard, but apparently not. You don't get that. You've got USB pass-through, right? Just for power.
You do have that, yeah. And this side, I don't know if, I've seen some people on Twitter mention this, but that was the other first thing that I noticed, because
looks like it's going to scratch pretty quick.
And it was a marble table. I don't know what sort of table it was, but I heard that clunk. I was like, oh, that didn't sound good. Because, I was expecting the old Magic Keyboard noise, which was kind of softy, yeah. This is beautiful and feels nice, but I feel like that's going to scratch.
Yeah, I feel like that should have probably been like raw aluminium, like the silver aluminium would be the best choice on this one.
Yeah, more brushed. Yeah.
I mean, I said right from when the iPhone 5 came out, which I use as my teleprompter still, when that came out with the slate colour, because I was a paintballer at the time, I played a lot of paintball, and the markers are made of aluminium generally, and they're milled and then anodized. Right. So I was like, as soon as I saw these, I was like, I have to get the silver, because the black one is going to look horrendous in like 3 months, because just the anode will wear on the edges, and I was right. I mean, the silver one's knocked up, but it's still silver. It's not showing other colours through. But
exactly, I had actually with my Samsung day one on the Samsung. I don't know how. I mean, I do wear a ring, and people say maybe it's the ring. But yeah, he marked to the back. It is, I think it's Gorilla Glass, but it's somehow.
Yeah, I remember seeing you'd mentioned an issue with the back of these. Yeah,
and it's still there, so it hasn't gone. And it's deep. When you put your
when you can feel it,
it's deep. Yeah,
I did that to my I did that to my iPhone 14 Pro's display like the first week I had it, because I was going to a work conference and I'd still got my old iPhone, and that had my like two-factor on it. I hadn't been able to transfer it over yet.
Ooh,
so I had them in the
painful.
pocket together, and it was the camera lenses of one on the screen of the other. So it's got all of those lovely circles all across. I was like, oh no. It was awful. The other thing I would say is like Apple Watch. This one's got the metal clasp here.
Yes.
Just on the bottom corner of my MacBook Air, because it's the midnight. So I have got a little bit of shiny just on that one corner, but you know.
Yeah, I
It's a
remember
tool.
this is going back a few years now. It was a 17-inch MacBook Pro I had, and I used to wear shirts for work that had those
Cufflinks.
Cufflinks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's blank. You know, the first time you do it, you notice straight away, but that's too late.
Yeah, it's all over by then. So iPad Pro, we had new iPad Airs. I mean, there's not much to say about the new iPad Airs. The big size is good. I think the pricing isn't too bad. The one thing I would say, pricing-wise, I think they're a bit cheeky with the iPad Pro, because we've got a £300 or dollar difference between the 11 and the 13.
Yeah.
We've got a $200 difference between the Air, but we also tend to have $200 on MacBooks as well. If you look at the MacBook Pros, it's $200 if you go spec for spec the same.
Right.
Obviously, the 16 starts with a higher spec, which is why it's about $500 on paper, but it's actually $200. And the only reason it's $300 on the Pro is because they'd already put it up $100 to put the mini LED display in it.
Yeah.
That was the one that went up, and now it's a $300 gap. That's like, oh, you've been cheeky there to get the extra cash.
Yeah, can definitely see that. I mean, there's a few areas where you see that in the storage selection, tying that up with. I mean, I want to ask you, because my opinion on the whole nano texture glass option.
Yes.
Was, I don't know if it's as bad as the M1 iPad Pro 16 gig optional, because that to me was a bit worse, but because that made the event itself, made me feel anyway as an iPad user, that I had to get the 16 gig because something was coming that was going to make that iPad like, bloody hell, it was the first time we saw the M chip on an iPad. It's like, there's definitely something coming, so I've got to get more memory. In the end, you know, it was for nothing.
Didn't make much difference.
But they did tie that up to a 1 terabyte minimum, and they did it again now with the Nano.
With the Nano glass and more memory.
Yeah, so I think, playing devil's advocate, I can see why that option is up there, because, you know, if you really think of who's going to need that, it's people, real pros, right, using the stuff outside and maybe on the field, and they don't want to carry, you know, these things like SSD drives or whatever.
Yeah.
So I can see why that option is tied to that. But in a way, I was like, and I think David fell for that, because David, our friend, who,
of course,
he went with the Nano texture. I want to know what he actually thinks of that, because I think it was a bit of a marketing cheeky sort of, if you want that better glass, you need to spend 700 more or whatever.
Now I'm really torn, because I think you guys mentioned about the paper likes and that kind of display covers, and the fact that they're going to be absolutely having a field day after this.
Yeah, that's what I thought, my initial reaction, yeah.
But like I've always used a matte screen protector, not a paper like, not a branded one of any sort like that. But I really like the feel of that with when I'm using my fingers on the display, not necessarily with the
and there's less fingerprints as well.
Yeah, less fingerprints, and also for things like Call of Duty, it means your fingers never stick. They like slide over the surface a little bit easier. That's
with a bit of moisture. That's it.
Call of Duty is the one game that I've always really enjoyed on the iPad. I think it's really, really fun. But I do think I just really want to see how these displays hold up, to be completely honest, when they're being used by hand all the time. Like, what is it going to be like with finger oils once they're in there? Is it going to be like the fingerprint magnet that we've had with the Midnight MacBooks? Is it going to be, is the display going to keep its texture very well? Because with the big sort of up high displays, you're not touching it all the time.
They've done something different though to the display. I don't know if it's a tandem thing that, and I haven't seen anyone mention this, but so you may hear this here first. I was going to show you an ND filter that I've got for. It was actually for the iPhone I was using yesterday as a backup phone, and I stuck it to the back of the phone, and I was going to do, because I was outside. It's like, I don't want it to be overexposed. Yeah. The first thing I noticed when I point that thing at the iPad Pro, not the Air, the Pro, it was like the screen was red on the iPhone. It's like, wow, why is it gone? So it's gone. Yeah, I'll try and show you on,
so is
on
it
the
like
reviews.
polarized or something?
Yeah,
something
and
like
didn't
that.
matter what I did. I thought maybe it's just the filter that I was using. But then here in the studio as well, this morning I was doing some B-roll. Same thing. It's like I couldn't use my ND filter on.
Is that on the regular glass as well? That's not on the nano texture, right?
Yeah, it's the regular. Yeah, so it's this one here. In fact, I've got I haven't tested it, so this may not work, but this is the iPad Pro, and I've got the ND filter there. I don't know if you can tell.
It doesn't look so red.
No.
I wonder if it's something to do with the OLED.
No,
I mean, that looks so bright.
Mate, it's the brightest thing. I put them side by side with the S. I'm doing my own tandem drawing because everyone is using it. It's like, I'm going to make my own. Anyway, it is bright. It's bright and it's contrasted in a way that I haven't seen before. I thought the S9 Ultra it still is a beautiful display, but you do see the deeper. Yeah. In the darker areas, the iPad is definitely better. It's noticeably better there.
So I know
depending on the app,
there were some comments on some of my videos earlier when I mentioned that they were probably going to OLED, saying, well, professionals are going to hate that because nobody that's a professional on colour can use an OLED because they're not accurate. And I was like, I don't feel like Apple's going to take that step backwards. And then obviously at the event, they were talking about the reference display mode that it's got and that kind of thing. Yeah. I feel like maybe OLED has a bit of a bad rap because some companies have used it very overexposed. And I know that there's a big difference, I think, between kind of TV OLED and smartphone OLED. And I'm assuming that this is a scaled up smartphone one rather than being a scaled down TV. But I don't know if that's something that you can speak to a little bit more, because I think you understand colour better than I do because you use proper cameras and things.
Not really. I did read something about because there was a comment on my video recently that triggered me to go and do some reading about the different type of OLEDs. And there's the quantum dots. I think Samsung came up with that. But then there's variations of that. There's WOLED, AMOLED. There's all different type of. But and what Apple is doing, it's slightly different to all of those. With this. Layering up.
With the tandem stack.
In reality, what I've seen is depending on the app, if it's HDR content, it will definitely. I mean, if someone says they're not seeing the difference, they're not telling the truth, because it's definitely. I mean, I thought there's no way it's going to be better than the dynamic AMOLED on the S9 Ultra. But especially when you're looking at HDR content, you see it. The colors themselves are very. I mean, I don't have a metric, kind of something to measure.
Colorimeter,
but they look pretty similar. I would imagine from an accuracy perspective, there's not that much difference. Cool. Brightness is similar, although I think it depends. If you really take them outside and you let them do their thing, I wonder which one would come out brighter. But as far as I can tell right now, it's tough because I prefer the aspect ratio of the Tab S9 Ultra. But it's a little bit more pleasing right now to watch content on the iPad. Yeah,
I've not managed to get eyes on it yet. I didn't manage to get into the Apple Store today. I was on the run all day with work, so I will probably try and swing by tomorrow to get some eyes on the actual displays and see how they're
had fun yesterday. I like going to there, and I thought, what could I ask them? Just to kind of, it was a bit mean, right? Because I knew the answer, but I just wanted to see what they would say. So I asked them if I could use the new Apple Pencil Pro on my previous iPad. I knew the answer, right? So it's like, so they're trying to push me to buy yet another iPad. Yeah. And what was the other thing? Oh yeah, it was the charger. Does it come with the charger? It's like, I knew exactly that it didn't, because the box is that thin, right?
Yeah.
No.
Somehow in America,
have one here.
Yeah, in America they're giving you a charger with it though.
Yeah, it's only us in Europe, right? But anyway,
I'm very upset. I wonder if it's just that in Europe there's more regulation around what you have to do with electricals that go into the mains and things like that, so it's just more expensive to produce or something along those lines. But Apple tends to make good stuff anyway in in the States as well. You wouldn't want to use, I think the States is way more kind of cowboy when it comes to electricity, aren't they? Especially with the sockets
and the
and
bricks
stuff.
are thinner, right? I thought maybe that's the reason that my initial reaction was, Apple wanted to save money on the box, make the box thinner here, so that there's less cost on the logistics side.
But then we've always had the funky folding pin plugs
like
as
those.
well, which
they're really cool.
It's such a nice design. Why has no one done that before, Apple?
I know.
It's such a good design.
Yeah.
But that can't be that much thicker anyway. But there we go. I will try and get into the stores. In terms of the pencils, as you just mentioned, there's way too many now. It's getting very confusing. The fact that there's enough now to do a Steve Jobs grid of consumer mobile pencils and all that sort of stuff.
There's way too many, and if they're easy to lose as well. So at least this one you can track.
Yes.
But I did notice, the material is the same. It's a little bit heavier. But it's balanced better.
Okay.
But in a way, it slides out of your hand a little bit quicker. So I'm going to try a few grips to see if that improves. Because I was just before here, I was out for lunch and I was doing some drawing, and I dropped it. It was on the grass, so it didn't damage or anything. But it's that's annoying because it was so easy to just slide out of my hand.
Yeah, I would say I think Apple is transitioning to 2 pencils. I think we're going to have Pro and USB-C is going to be basically what we have. I would guess that the next version of the base iPad will be compatible with the Pro as well, because I think the issue that they had at the moment is that the new base iPad came out and they moved the camera, which is why it doesn't work with the Apple Pencil 2.
Right.
The new Apple Pencil Pro has moved the charging coil to one end, and then I'm guessing there's 2, because I'm guessing you can still charge it both ways round on top.
I never watched which way it goes.
Yeah,
it seems to be going. Yeah.
So if they've moved that coil to one side in the Apple Pencil, then they'll have a pair of coils in the top of the iPad, I would guess.
Yeah.
So you can put it either way round.
I mean it
makes the most sense
up very quickly, and it's quite annoying because it's now thicker than the actual iPad, right? But
yes, quite dramatically. But even Apple put that in their marketing stuff. If you saw the newsroom post, there's one of the pictures is just showing you how much thicker it is than the iPad now. And it's strange.
I do like, that. I just wish, in a way, I just wish that the Magic Keyboard, even if it's not an elegant solution, I think Samsung's solution is a magnet thing that, is a flap that you can put it in there. It's not that elegant and it could still lose it, but at least it's in a way that, when you put it in a bag, even if you stick it at the top here, it's gonna go.
Yeah, I think the case that I've got has got a slot at the top, so it still charges on the top of the. It's one of the ESR cases from
There's so
when
many
it first
solutions
came out,
out there, right, for that.
Yeah. But Apple didn't go with it for some reason. Who knows why?
Yeah, and the material on the Magic Keyboard is still a little bit, too substantial.
Not perfectly durable.
No, well, it's the smudge as well, right? It's gonna get so smudgy.
Oh, really?
But when you're typing it, it's you forget about everything because it is just. Yeah, I can see myself just typing all my scripts on this now and just using it on the road a lot more than I was using the iPad before. Yes.
Okay, and I know you're not a massive fan of iPadOS, as many tech creators have said. I'm still of the camp of make it a better iPad rather than trying to make it into closer to a Mac. I think lean into the pencil stuff more, but I get the keyboard idea. If you're going to do light computing tasks, that's fine. But I don't think it needs to run Mac OS or anything like that. It would be nice if they did a wrapper like Catalyst, so that you could bring over some Mac apps occasionally. But
Yeah, I'm not even sure where that's coming from. I don't think Apple ever suggested they would do that, right?
No.
So I'm not sure where this is coming from. So I never myself said that we need a different, a Mac OS on the thing. No. What I would like, well, there's 2 things. As the more I use Android, kind of something else came up. But the first one is I'd like to be able to to start something on the Mac and be able to finish it on the iPad, even if it's not a fully fledged, like Final Cut Pro is the example that comes to mind, as I edit video pretty much on a daily basis, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It would be awesome if I could, even if I was having to use an SSD or something to export the project to the SSD and then plug it in later on the iPad.
Just bring the library file with you.
Yeah, and I think that would be nice. And I'm not sure if that will happen with the support for working off of an SSD.
Yeah.
But that would be something that I would say, you know what? I don't need Mac OS. If I've got that ability to actually be functional on the iPad, brilliant. Because I know I'm not going to be able to do the same level of editing on the iPad, but I'd love to finish work here, go home, have dinner, and then later on do some fine, kind of coloring, maybe adding some music tracks or whatever, using the pencil, making the most of the tablet form. So yeah, it's just at the moment, it's just you can't do that. And the other thing is, I miss multitasking. It's something that once you've used, it's hard to ignore that it's out there and it's exists. I mean, a lot of people will go oblivious to it, and the iPad will do everything for them. I mean, we know Nando Silva as an example that always comes to mind as someone who uses the iPad for everything.
Yeah.
I can't, because I know what's possible. I was like, I should be able to resize windows properly and put them where I want them.
Yeah, I get that. I also think, though, that like kids especially, and like people that aren't power users, like it is the perfect computer. And I think like Apple did do a campaign at one point which was like, your next computer is not a computer.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where everyone's come from. And they've gone, well, Apple said that it's going to replace the computer. And it's like, no, they didn't. It's like you've misinterpreted yet another advert from Apple. Not just the press, but also this one. And I just don't think that's where they were going. I think for 90% of people, it does do everything that they would need from a computer. If it does email, it does web browsing, it does documents, it does spreadsheets to a decent degree if you're not doing them all day, every day. That kind of stuff is fine. And it's perfect for looking at your images and watching videos of your kids and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And a bit of gaming.
I almost by accident found that, I was picking up the M1 iPad Air a lot more than my M1 iPad Pro. After about 6, maybe 9 months, so I was like, okay, well, there's nothing on the iPad Pro apart from the lovely mini LED display.
Yeah, 120 hertz.
So I just sometimes on the sofa I would pick up the M1 iPad Air just to browse and do whatever. Yeah. Because there was no difference. So I think you're right. There's majority of people don't really need to do more on the iPad. But as someone who knows what's possible to do on a tablet, I wish Apple could come up with something that... And the Stage Manager, I have to be honest, Stage Manager is getting there. I mean, whenever iPadOS 17, even I think it was even in the beta, when we were first allowed to put attach a DSLR camera to it and plug it to a monitor of any size, I plugged it to an 8K TV and it's like, oh my gosh, it just bang worked. Yeah. It's just a bit slow in terms of getting those things to the iPad, but at least I can see it's finally giving us something. Well, I still don't know why. I think, does the MacBook Air, it does, right? You're supposed 2 monitors as long as the lid is closed.
M3 onwards does.
The M3, right? So why on the iPad or the M4? On Thunderbolt.
You can have 2, but the thing is, if you were gonna be doing 2 external displays, you would have to be docked to a. Yeah, you'd obviously have to be docked anyway to the keyboard.
Which App Pro would, I mean, is what you'd have, right? You have one of those cow digit things or whatever. So I think maybe that's coming, right? Maybe in WWDC, but that's one of the things that would give people confidence that the iPad Pro is worth it and it's actual for pros. Because I do get comments. I mean, some of the stuff is not even for me. I don't see myself using 2 monitors. I don't use 2 monitors actually. Thinking about it, even with my MacBook. But some people do comment and say, I wish you had this, which gets me thinking. Yeah,
I get it. But also, if you're going to be buying an iPad, especially if you're going to buy an iPad Pro, half the reason that you're buying it is because it's got such a great OLED display. So if you're going to kind of kill that display so that you can do another TV or something, it feels like you're missing out there. You lose all of the option for interacting with touch. And there's just a lot of compromises if you do it that way, I think. So I would be surprised.
I guess it depends on... Sorry, go.
I would just be surprised if Apple gives you the option to turn off that display and like use it with a trackpad for two displays. You're going to lose so much of the interaction that you get from iPad-specific apps if you can't touch the display at all.
I think you nailed it there. I think it's just how Apple, they just look at the experience. They go, that's not an experience that feels fluid. Whereas other manufacturers, not just Samsung, I think I think it was the Oppo, Honor maybe, that are allowing people to flex. I mean, Samsung call it Dex. Yeah, there's more of those merging the laptop experience and the tablet experience, and letting people choose. But I think you're right. I think I think the majority of people buying an iPad Pro, specifically the iPad, already has a MacBook of some sort or a Mac of some sort.
More than likely, I could see having a Mac, like a desktop Mac and an iPad. As your combination, that would kind of make sense. So you've got your iPad for on the go, and then you come back, and when you want to, you can use it. Sidecar, universal control, all of these things do make it more interesting to kind of work with them together. I think universal control is a really interesting thing, especially if you've got multiple Macs. So that's one of the things here for me, because I've got a Mac Mini that's based on the desk and the MacBook Air, and I'm quite capable then of going between 4 different displays with one keyboard and mouse.
That is nice. That is nice.
So just like adding a Mac Mini gives you an extra 2 displays, so that could be your way of having as many displays as you want.
Yeah, it's just that's a good way. Yeah.
And you get different computers that are actually running them, but you can still move files between them just by dragging it. It's actually quite magical. It's quite nice. I like it.
and I think I've tried it to do for these things, right? Because I'm looking through a teleprompter glass. Yeah. But what I've done before is put the iPad under there, so that I then can move the screen here. So here's where you are actually. So I'm looking here, but you're down here. It'd be nice if I could do that. Sidecar is a perfect solution for that. Yeah. But I don't know what it is. After a while, maybe it's my Wi-Fi here. I don't know, but it drops out, and then I'm just frustrated. But when it works, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Right, and you started off as being a very kind of Apple-focused channel right at the beginning, and now you do a lot more with Android stuff and other tech. So convince me why I want my phone to bend in half, not in a broken way.
Well, I think first of all, I wasn't aware anyway that I started off as an Apple channel. I think I just go with what interests me at the time. And you're right. I think when I started the channel, my main devices were all Apple. It wasn't until maybe a year into YouTube that I tried. I went back because I had tried the Samsung stuff before, but I went 6 or 7 years without trying Android. And I tried the S21 Ultra at the time, and that was my first into my YouTube life anyway, when I started to make stuff. But foldable phones. I've got one just here. I didn't pick it up. One sec.
Okay.
This is great podcasting, isn't it? Just leaves the room.
No, we'll just, I'll fast forward through that part.
But this is the Fold 5. I've got the Shanos, it's D brand, right? Their skins are beautiful.
Yes.
That somehow works wrong way. But I've got that here, and I've tried cases. That's the only thing with foldables. As many manufacturers will try to say to you that their cases work, it's just not. I mean, they try to already compromise, but it's still quite a thick thing.
It's chunky, isn't it?
This one caught my eye because the form factor is actually narrower and it is easier. I mean, it's just a nice weight to it. It feels I don't know, classy is the word I always use when I'm reviewing this phone.
And then it's fairly square, is it, when you open it up?
It's fairly square. It's a weird aspect ratio, this one, actually, because it's almost like you could say it's kind of similar to an iPad mini experience when you open it.
Yeah.
Although, I don't use this front screen. I mean, some people say, that's the one you go to for quick texts and whatever. I just find it got soft fingers anyway, but it's just, at a glance to see basically notifications, fine, but I always open it and do most of my stuff here.
Gotcha.
The one case I've got for cases is the Samsung one that has the S Pen built in. But I kind of alternate between that and just not having anything.
And S Pen.
I didn't convince you there, right? But
not massively. I'm not going to lie. That wasn't a great sales
pitch. Not
pitch.
even saying it was like an iPad Mini, but yeah.
I think Daniel's going to be. Is it Daniel that is your Samsung friend?
Yeah, he
makes some amazing content.
He'll sell you. Yeah.
I need to get him on. I think we spar a lot on Twitter. Because I obviously take Team Apple all the time, and he takes very much Team Samsung. And that's fine.
That's his thing, and that's his lane, right? And I think
yes, 100%.
That's your lane as well. So he has, as long as it's a healthy debate, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
No. We do chat backwards and forwards quite a bit on Twitter, to be fair. But yeah, the S Pen. This is the thing I was going to ask you about. Obviously, people compare it to the Apple Pencil. Is it powered? Or is it just a kind of passive stylus? How does that work? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Or are there different versions?
Yeah, they're different versions. On the S24 Ultra, it hides into the phone, so it's kind of in there. I don't use it that much. I think I use it more for when I'm editing photos on the phone. So using this with Lightroom is awesome. Very precise. Okay. The only problem with the the S24 Ultra, it's a problem that you can avoid it, but I like having gestures to move. Like on the iPhone, you've got gestures to swipe and whatever. You can turn it off, but I don't know. It's just annoying that sometimes you get to the edge and it triggers something else. Or if you've got a case with a strong magnet as well, it affects the S Pen.
Oh, okay.
So there's things in there that some niggles and things like that. But on the Tab S9 Ultra, it's a different pencil.
And but they still call it an S Pen.
Yeah, still an S Pen, but it's for the tablet, and that's also powerless. Magnetizes to two places. I think you can place it on top or at the back, and again in either direction. I love it. I mean, the tip is softer than the Apple Pencil, so I find it easier to write or draw on that. For what I do a lot of architecture drawings with, it's lines and boxes basically.
Yep.
So I find it easier, more accurate on the tablet, on the Tab S9 Ultra.
Yeah.
But it's easily fixable with, there's a rubber tip that you can get for the iPad, for the Apple Pencil.
Yes.
That works really well as well. But they do kind of wear off, but just get another one.
This is one of the things that everyone was saying was potentially going to be one of the new features of the Apple Pencil was like replaceable tips. I'm still a little bit sad that they didn't. There's a patent out there for an Apple Pencil where it's got a camera in the tip so that it can basically detect color. And then you can basically use the real world as like a palette as like a color dropper.
Yeah.
What a great idea that would be. So you can just grab like a can of this and go, I want that blue, boom, and paint with it. How nice would that be?
That would be cool, yeah.
But obviously we didn't get that, so this is just me complaining.
And it's a great point about the differences, right? I think that when it comes to the apps for artists, you can find similar apps out there. There's at least 10 apps that I can think of on the Android tablets that can do what Procreate does. Yeah. But it's not Procreate. And if you've used Procreate before, it's really, really difficult to go to something else. Yeah,
I mean, I've always been a Photoshop person on desktop, but Procreate on the iPad is so much better than using iPad Photoshop for some reason. I don't really know how Adobe have failed at Photoshop for the iPad so hard. It just, and I don't think there's that much missing.
Yeah, so between the Photoshop for the Mac and Photoshop for the iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's that much missing. It's just it doesn't feel right. I don't. It's really hard to.
No,
sort of,
I found the same with when I was using Premiere to edit my videos. I found the mobile version on the iPhone. It just wasn't as good as anything else. I think they called it Rush or something.
Yeah, Adobe Rush.
It started off as a great idea. Even the rendering, I remember maybe iPhone 12, it was like rendering on the phone was brilliant.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe they added too many things, sound effects and whatever. It just got really messy and slow.
It's quite possible. I've got to say, though, you and David have been sort of singing the praises. CapCut, it's great. It's so good
gosh.
for...
Why can't... I don't know, Apple should just buy them because...
Yeah, why can't Final Cut just have auto captions? Like, that's one of the big things.
Feature. There's a one feature I go for CapCut to do. It's just... and
they're putting it system-wide for, like, text to... speech to text for everything. I did a video, actually, yesterday that's all about these new accessibility features. But I titled it, Apple's just leaked their future software features because this is what happens. Like with Double Tap for the Apple Watch, it was an accessibility feature, which is the only reason that I've got it on my Apple Watch because I've got a Series 7. And they software locked it then to the Series 9. But it does more as an accessibility feature because you've got singles, doubles, fists, and all sorts that it could detect for different things. I don't know why they keep hiding these things. Like the back tap on the iPhones to start shortcuts, that's accessibility as well. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff. But some of the stuff they've just come out with is incredible.
Awesome,
yesterday's announcements.
I have to look at that because there are things that, especially when it comes to different languages or just adding text to video. Oh my gosh, that would be I don't know why Final Cut doesn't have a plugin in there.
It seems so easy.
Especially when like CapCut is just a couple of clicks. I find it annoying. I uploaded a couple of shorts yesterday for the iPad. Yeah, the workflow was ridiculous. It was edit the video, record a video on the phone. Yeah. Import it to the Mac, edit it in Final Cut, get everything, as you want it to be.
Then move it to
CapCut. And then airdrop it to the phone again. It's like, and then YouTube adds another layer of complexity to that. It's like you can't change the thumbnail unless you're on the phone, and it's just for shorts, that is.
And obviously, every time you're doing the exports and moving it between devices and to different platforms, it's probably adding some artifacting and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah. Exporting 60 frames per second on Final Cut. The default in CapCut is 30. So if you're not paying attention, you're exporting in 30, and they're like, oh god, that doesn't look right. Go to 60. Yeah. It's the fun. And not to mention all the files that you've got spread across everywhere. Just
filling everything up. Yeah. So this is the other thing I was going to ask you about, because I think you might have mentioned this in the past. S24 Ultra. You were saying that you prefer the S23 Ultra. The non-reflective screen coating on the S24 Ultra. I saw loads of people on Twitter going, oh, Apple have rushed out this texture on the iPad Pro because of the S24 Ultra. I know they haven't.
Yeah, it's different.
It's very, very different, right?
Yeah.
But is it good? Because I've heard some people say it's incredible and other people say it's awful.
It's the best display on a handheld device I've ever seen. If the Tab S10 Ultra comes out with this, it's an immediate, for me, it's like...
Okay.
It started off in really bad... I don't know if I can show you here, but it's... If I cover my eyes.
Yeah, there you go.
It's so sharp and... It's really pleasing to see. It's actually... It feels different as well to other screens. It's less grippy. I think we're talking about that. So there's good and bad. Initially, I don't know what they've done to counter this different type of screen that the colors looked washed out. And I was one of the first people to notice it. I think you mentioned this
on -16, right? So the colors looked wrong when you first got it.
Straight away, I was like, there's something not right. The reds were pink.
And you think this is because of that coating or that kind of screen treatment, if you like?
I think it turned out to be a software thing. I think it was the vividness level when their argument, or at least people who knows, ins and outs of Samsung, they were saying that Samsung finally made the screen more realistic, and we were just used to it being oversaturated, and we wanted that color back. I'm not sure. I think it was the color was inaccurate.
Yeah,
it was just not reds. Were not reds. Even on their own icons, it was like, well, mostly on the icons actually.
Yeah,
some content was actually okay, but on the UI, it's like, what's going on here?
Stuff like the YouTube icon looking pink instead of red.
Notifications, the phone, which is green. So greens, reds, blues were all over the place. And I always tweak. I think the natural is too washed out, and the vivid is obviously too vivid. So I always go in there, and Samsung does let you slide, how much red, how much green, how much blue you want. But it was definitely not right, and they released a software update that fixed that. But I don't know, they've introduced so many things in this phone that I think they should have just left alone. I mean, the 10x zoom removal in front, in favor of the 5x with a bigger sensor. Yeah, I think that was a mistake, because it probably messed with the color science in the photos, which is just generating. I mean, I'm not using Expert RAW anymore as much as I was using which is basically Pro RAW in iPhone terms. Yeah, that's a shame, because I used to enjoy that. I mean, I actually, that was my default camera app to use Expert RAW, and it's now I only use it if I know I've got time, because it's likely to screw up something.
So, anything else that you've got on your radar coming soon? Any big videos you're working on that you want to tease?
Yes, we've got a few things lined up. There's stuff that I've already recorded. I'm doing, kind of trying to create a library on the channel for health and fitness. I've been using the Garmin stuff. I've been using, don't have it right now, but got like a ring, smart ring. Okay. So I've created a few videos and they did well. So I'm kind of saying, well, maybe there's a part of my audience that is interested in that health and fitness thing. So I'm building that library. So there's a new Garmin review coming up. This is the big but I mean, this is overkill for me. This is for athletes, really. There's obviously the Samsung Galaxy S24 videos whenever I can get some time.
And I guess some iPad stuff coming fairly soon.
Lots of iPads. I mean, I'm now just taking a break. So I'm going to go straight to I didn't want to rush my I'm calling it Android fanboy tries iPad. Cool. So people who know me will know that I'm not really a fanboy, but
you've been
I think it's YouTube's got a YouTube, right?
Absolutely. No, well, thank you so much for joining me today. Let everyone know where they can find you on the internet, although they probably already have, given your gold silver badges.
Yeah, Alex G Tech everywhere, or Alex Gear and Tech on YouTube. Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you all in the next one.
A complete revolution. We figured out a way. We machine all of the surfaces to create something that's genuinely new. You have to start again. Unapologetically plastic. Aluminium.